once again after a short break. I understand that most of our media colleagues here have been tied up with so many multiple major coverages recently, including yesterday, and expectedly tomorrow with the scheduled Quadcom hearing. I'd like to introduce our honorable guest, House Ad Hoc Committee on Marawi Rehabilitation and Victims Compensation Chairman and Lanao del Sur 1st District Representative Sia Alonto Adyong, One Rider Party List Representative Rods L. Gutierrez, House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs Chairman and Tingog Party List Representative Jude A. Asidre, and House Assistant Majority Leader and La Union 1st District Representative Paulo P. Ortega V. Another guest, House Assistant Majority Leader and ako Bicol Party List Representative Raul Gil Bungalon will be arriving later as he is now attending a very important committee hearing. Before I open the floor for media questions, let us give our distinguished speakers the opportunity to greet us and, of course, to deliver their short opening remarks. Anybody from you, gentlemen?
On behalf of the neophytes who are here, I would like to thank our friends in the media for educating us. Actually, itong press con, hindi lang ito para sa inyo, hindi lang po para sa taong bayan, kundi para din sa aming mga neophyte na mga kinatawan ng Kongreso. Kasi dahil sa pamamarang ito, nalalaman po namin kung ano ang mga issue na mahalaga po sa tao at nalilinawagan din po kami kung paano po namin dapat siya isipin, aralin at sagutin. Kaya nang sinasabi nga ng speaker palagi, it always helps to be in dialogue with everyone. And we thank our friends in the media for being that bridge, for being that means to build that dialogue with the people. We are the elected representatives of the people. It's only right and fair that the people are able to hear directly from us and that we also get to know directly from the people the issues that are important to them. So I hope this will be a meaningful press conference for everyone. Magandang umaga po.
Okay. To start with today's first question, let us acknowledge Marian Enriquez from TV5.
Hi po, good morning po mga Kong. I hope you've watched na po yung third part ng video ni VP Sara Duterte. And she said there po na kaya hindi na rin siya pumunta po doon sa second hearing po ng kanyang OVP budget is because gagamitin daw po yung COA findings sa pag-atake laban sa kanya. So po ulit-ulit po niya sinasabi na ina-atake raw po siya and 90% nga ng mga tanong is confidential funds kahit wala na raw sa 2024 and 2025 yung CF sa OVP. And kahit wala akong kinalaman, I quote, doon sa mga observations ng COA, sinasabi nila na kasalanan ni Inday Sara yan. What's your take on that, sir? Ano pong komento niyo rito?
Well, for first, no, ako talaga, sumagot. For first, kasalanan naman talaga niya. Paano? Because she's the head of agency. Whether it resulted in malfeasance or whatsoever, it is her responsibility and accountability to explain why these findings have been observed by COA. Sino naman ang tatanungin namin? Di ba? Department of Education, Office of the Vice President, it is a matter of record that she is the Vice President, she is the Secretary of Education during that time. Di ba? Wala naman kami, sino naman ang ituturo ng Kongreso? The second thing is, people have this misconception that when they go for the budget hearing, magprepresenta lang sila ng magkano ang gagastusin namin, magkano yung kailangan ng department namin, ano yung priority. Hindi ho yan lang ang budget hearing. Although that's an important part of what a budget hearing is. Pansin po ninyo, ito po ang mekanismo ng Kongreso bilang mga kinatawan ng taong bayan para sabihin na ito ay susuportahan namin, ito hindi namin susuportahin dahil ito'y mahalaga para sa taong bayan. Tawag po doon power of the purse. It's the way we can somehow make our government agencies accountable. Diba? Hindi naman namin pwedeng turuan ang secretary ng anong department kung anong gagawin niya. Hindi naman, we cannot impose ourselves on the executive considering the branches, diba? Branches of government. Kasi we're all co-equal branches of government. But by exercising the power of the purse, we are able to hold the executive accountable. And that is not paninira, that is not politika, that is how the political process works. That is how a mature democracy works. Diba? So pumupunta sila dito, sana hindi nila isipin na pagagalitan sila, pupolitikahin sila, sisiraan sila. Kasi if you look at the proceedings, never naman kaming mga neophytes disrespectful sa kanya, di ba? Never naman katulad kahapon ng kasamahan namin, di naman namin tinasang boses namin. Kami pa nga ang tinasa ng boses kahapon eh. Di ba? That is the important thing to consider. Pangatlo, dun sa, if you are to be technical about it, items in the budget of a 2-year life. Now, part of examining the budget is understanding how previous budgets were spent. You can't totally absolve yourself na sasabihin, tapos na to. Diba? Especially if the life for that fund just ended. Like, when it was approved in 2022, so we have until 2024, 2023, end of 2023. So last year lang yon. So we are still within bounds to ask clarity on certain items. And lastly, public office is a public trust. We are all bound not only by sins of commission, but more importantly, sins of omission. Nung sinabi ko kanina na kasalanan ni Inday Sara, wala akong sinasabing may nakuha, may nawawala. Although si COA may sinasabi na mayroong mali yung pagkagastos na pinapasauli. And mind you, that's not, kahapon naliwanagan ako, hindi pala yun yung starting point. Yan na yung end point halos ng proseso. Kasi notice of disallowance na, meron ng pabalik-balik na papel. Hindi lang pala, may mga audit observation. Due process was observed until that point that a notice of disallowance. So kung sasabihin natin na wala naman siyang kasalanan by granted, by commission, definitely by omission. She has the ultimate accountability as head of those departments. Those are public funds. The public office is a public trust.
Maikli lang, Thank you, Kong Jude, for the enlightenment. Kasi andyan naman kami, we were very much present during the budget deliberations. Ako personally, yung mga kailangan kong itanong, natanong ko na, narinig nyo naman po yung mga sagot sa amin, narinig nyo naman po kung paano kami sinagot ng head of the department. Sabi ko nga, nung napag-uusapan kahapon yung tungkol sa tradition, sa courtesy, sinagot ko po yan na dapat courtesy begets courtesy. Diba? Ganun naman po tayo, kay tradisyon ng kaugalian po ng Pilipino yan. And sa tingin ko, para sa akin, dahil wala nga nasagot, wala kaming nakuha, ang tingin ko, hindi niya po kabisado yata yung pinopropose niyang budget. Baka hindi niya alam yung nilalaman ng budget niya. Kaya ganun na lang po niya kami sagutin, ganun na lang po yung impression na iniwan niya, tapos hindi nga po nag-attend kahapon. Baka hindi niya kabisado o hindi niya alam nangyayari sa loob ng opisina niya, kaya nagkaroon ng mga ganun na problema, yung mga aom niya. Sinabi ko nga po during my line of questioning nung first na budget briefing na yung 5 million nga na aom at hindi mo na apela o hindi mo na depensa o hindi mo na ibalik, eh may mga natatanggal nga pong mayor. May mga naaalis po ng mga public officials dahil sa mga ganyan na problema. So, baka hindi niya lang alam kung how her budget works or ano po laman ng budget niya.
I think much has been said. Si Kong Jude already mentioned yung relevance yung CIF. But for me po, I think really, especially in light of the question po, no, yung interview itself, I think she just refuses to take accountability for all that we are looking for in Congress in exercise of the power of the purse. Kasi naman po, yung CIF, nabanggit naman ni Kong Jude kung bakit we would think that she is responsible or should be responsible whether by omission or by commission. But to say that dahil lang po CIF yung topic of questions, I don't think that's true. Because precisely, during that hearing, admittedly, maybe 90% yung tanong tukol sa CIF kasi yun yung hot topic. We just received the notice of disallowance. We just received the COA reports. And mind you, the dates were 2024. We couldn't have asked this in 2023. So this was the right time to ask these questions. Now, we went to have that first hearing. Nagtanong po tayo tukol sa CIF. Ayaw niya po sumagot. The next hearing, we prepared questions for 2025 naman. And again, tama si Kong Jude, 2023 kasama po yan. When you look at the NEP 3 years po ang nandyan, you have the proposed 2025, you have the current, which is 2024, and you have the actual 2023. So I think definitely within the bounds po nung hearing namin, we can exact questions about the utilization of 2023, which includes precisely yung subject of the audit report. Now, granted, ayaw nyo pong sagutin yan. We were prepared. I think individually, I was expecting some other Kongs to also ask about the CIF. Pero apparently, parang opposite na. Parang 97% naman yung tanong is about 2025, 2024 utilization. So, I think, given that, if she had appeared before us yesterday, she would have had the opportunity to talk about the budget in the future, as she claims that she would. But with the interview na lumalabas, parang linilihis po eh. Parang she just refuses to answer questions, whether man it is the CIF or whether it's about the actual budget proposed and used currently. So, I think that's my take po on the interview po and the timing of its release. Salamat po.
On my part, this is how I look at it. I'm satisfied because COA is not selective on rendering their decision, especially if it is born out from their own findings. Na even nobody really is exempted from the scrutiny of how each agencies of government, regardless whether you're on top or you're the highest, you're not insulated from the COA assessment by way you utilize the fundings sourced out from the taxpayers' money. So I'm satisfied on that aspect kasi ginagawa ang COA yung kanilang trabaho. Now, similarly, ang trabaho din, mandato kasi ng COA yun under the Constitution. Ang mandato rin ng House of Representatives, as explained very well by Kong Jude and Kong Pao and Kong Rog, ay busisiin yung budget na pinopropose bawat taon. Part of that busisiin really is to look at how we can comprehensively appreciate the budget that was given to a certain agency, how they utilize that, supported by the COA reports. Kasi importante po yung utilization, especially if the budget is continuing appropriation. Kasi hindi yung isa mga, in many cases po, ang mga ahensya hindi nila nauubos sa isang taon ang kanilang pondo. Mayroon pa talaga pong naiiwan dyan. Ngayon, mapapansin po natin, may mga programa po sa dating budget na mini-maintain, na pinapropose sa darating po ng mga taon. So, ikukumpara po natin yan. So, pag ikumpara po yan, pinag-uusapan po dyan yung utilization rate, pinag-uusapan po dyan yung effectivity ng pagbibigay ng pondo at paggagastusan ng pondo. At, of course, ang COA talaga magmamatter sa budget hearing. That's why we always look on to ano yung mga supporting documents para masabi natin na itong pondo na ito ay tagamit at kailangan pang pondohan. So, basically, if we focus on that, yung mandato ng bawat opisina, mandato ng bawat ahensya na ginawa ng gobyerno, wala po tayong rason para sabihin na ito ay pamumulitika. Ito ay isang senyales na maganda at vibrant at strong ang mga ahensya ng ating gobyerno, especially on the principle of check and balances. Sana po doon na lang po ang anggulo ang ating makita.
Thank you. Oh,
Do you have a follow-up question,
sorry.
Marian?
Yes, pwede pa po ba magtanong? Kasi I know this has been asked to you po several times siguro. Pero nabanggitin ni VP Sara na hindi na raw po bago yung usapin ng pag-impeach sa kanya. It was mentioned na raw ni Kong Franz Castro November 2023. Ang sabi niya, quote, tuloy-tuloy lang yan, openly na pinag-uusapan ang impeachment. So, pinag-uusapan po ba talaga to? Go, sir.
Very simple, hindi po totoo yan.
And in addition, I have heard talks of impeachment, but coming from her. We don't hear it here in Congress. I can guarantee you that po.
Thank you. Next question comes from Bibian Gulia of ABS-CBN2.
Good morning, Kongs. For reaction daw po, of course related to VP Sara pa rin dun sa statement niya or sa video na inilabas kanina, essentially parang sinasabi na scripted daw yung mga budget hearing, one, and then two, reaction daw po dito sa comment niya na para hindi halata na inaatake nila ako ay tinanggalan din nila yung mga iba pang departments ng confidential funds. So nakikita nyo, bumulong ang Makabayan Block kay Martin Romualdez. At dahil sa kagustuhan ni Martin Romualdez na hindi siya aatakihin at dahil gusto niyang suportahan ng Makabayan at ang NPA, nakinig siya. At ang ginawa niya, tinanggal yung budget para alamin kung yun po.
Thank you po, ma'am. Meron po ako nakitang may script. Paulit-ulit po yung sagot niya. Binabasa niya yung script niya. Pero kami po, wala po kami script. Wala naman pong senaryo, wala naman pong ganun. Pero lahat ng sagot, binabasa yung script. Yun lang po masasabi ko.
Alam yun, napaka-convenient na reason na sasabihin na may script po kami. Kung isipin mo naman, there are around 50 people normally on an appropriations committee meeting and hindi lahat pumapasok at the same time. Secondly, we come from different persuasions, different even districts, different perspectives. Ang galing naman siguro ng scriptwriter, no? Napapag-iisa niya lang lahat. Pero gaya ng sinabi ni Kong Pao, isa lang naman yung may binabasang script eh. Tatatlungan lang yung linya, 'di ba? Paulit-ulit binabasa pa. Yung punto ko lang is, I honestly take offense that the Vice President has chosen to make all these accusations over media, over an obviously scripted television interview, di ba? Kasi, kung marami naman pala siyang sasabihin, bakit hindi niya sinabi nung nandito siya sa Kongreso, di ba? When we could have made all people mentioned accountable. But in fact, ako, correct, it's an attempt, it's obviously an attempt to divert the issues that could have been properly treated in Congress during the Appropriations Committee hearing. All these claims about the leadership, about confidential funds, it's very disheartening kasi bakit kami pa na gumawa ang tama para sa taong bayan, kami na ginawa yung lahat para maging transparent, kami pa ang i-impute na may ginawang kamalian. Di ba? Kongreso na nga ang nag-take ng step to make the confidential funds more transparent. Ngayon, kami pa ang sasabihan na it's an attempt as a form of political attack against the Vice President. I think the representatives of the people have a better use of their time rather than just attending to these matters. Ikaw yung sponsor eh. Ikaw yung
Dagdagan ko lang, sorry. Nakita naman natin na very constructive yung House when it came to questions. Nothing personal, nothing political. Alam niyo naman sa House of Representatives, very demure, very mindful yung mga members. Saka yung consideration talaga saka yung courtesy was afforded, and walang kahit anong diversionary tactics, walang kahit anong tanong na taliwas sa laman ng budget. Ang trabaho po namin, magbusisi at magtanong. Ang trabaho po nila, ipresenta yung budget at sagutin yung mga tanong. Ganun lang naman po kasimple. Wala naman pong kahit ano pa dyan.
Isang pahabol na lang, konti na lang. Kung naghahanap sila ng script, ang tanong namin, bakit ang isang television interview na obviously parehong subject, parehong interviewer, parehong set nga, in-extend pa ng 3 araw? At purposely released in sync with the proceedings in Congress. Siguro mas alam ng taong bayan kung sino ang may script.
Vivian?
Opo. Sir, comment din sir dun sa sinasabi na laging inaatake ang Vice President dahil siya yung tinitingnan ng mga tao na magiging susunod na presidente. And mayroon daw plan to defund the Office of the Vice President. Narinig din namin na posibleng piso lang ang ibigay sa OVP. Kaparte yan ng pag-atake. And sir, hindi lang masyado na-address kanina, yung bulong daw ng makabayan yung pagtatanggal ng confidential funds sa mga civilian agencies nung nakaraan.
Comment lang on the first part do, yung tungkol sa sorry, can we repeat nga po yung first part, yung about the Vice President na inaatake?
Yung inaatake dahil historically speaking daw laging inaatake yung Vice President dahil tinitingnan na siya yung magiging susunod na presidente. And yung plan daw to defund the OVP is part of the attack.
Maybe that's the playbook of the previous administration, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't care who the president will be in 2028. What we care about is the budget now. Yun lang po yung masasabi ko siguro sa any ploy that there might be.
I think the ones that are accusing us of politicking are the ones who are actually doing the politicking. Wala ang ginagawa. Let's go back to the very basic of why we are holding this committee briefing, committee deliberation. It's part of the mandate. Parte po yan sa aming sinumpaang katungkulan. Wala hong naiisip ata dito sa House of Representatives na infuse yung possible na 2028 because that's a long way to go. And number two, what is immediate to us is for the entire bureaucracy of this country to operate. And for this country to really operate is to have the budget approved and see kung ano yung mga kailangan ng taong bayan pagdating sa pondo, programa, at bigyan, kung pwede, kung maaari, na mabigyan yung mga ibang programa na kinakailangan naman talagang pondohan. Ganun lang po. As to the case of probably, kasi ako po yung mag-sponsor nung pondo. Sa mga budget deliberation, anything is possible. Remember, gusto ko lang pong balikan, pag pumasok po yan dito sa House of Representatives, pupunta rin po yan sa BICAM. So, yung in terms of adjustment of priorities, kaya nga po importante ang pre-briefing budget deliberation kasi doon po malalaman kung ano yung naging determination kung bakit may pondo sa certain line item, bakit ito ay mas malaki, bakit yun ay medyo mababa at paano po nagasto. Kasi yun lang po yung way para maintindihan ng mga membro ng Kongreso o kung ano yung magiging pasya o ano yung magiging resulta ng pwede nilang i-approve as far as House of Representatives is concerned. So anything is possible po. Anything is possible. Pero ako as a sponsor, ang pinaka-importante talaga is yung opisina, kung anong kailangan ng opisina na base po sa mandato niya. Of course, hindi ho din natin po pwedeng disregard na may mga empleyado dyan sa mga opisina ng bawat ahensya. Kailangan din ho ng pondo pagdating sa mga maintenance ng kanilang mga assets and all, mga office equipment. So, kailangan din ho tingnan yun. But I don't think na yung sinasabing piso na we are not going to just ignore the the budget that is required for the for the office of the vice president to have in order for the office itself and the institution itself to operate.
Yung tungkol sa nabulungan ng mga kaibigan namin, mga kasama namin sa Makabayan, alam mo yung Makabayan Block or yung tatlong kongresista, they have been really active fiscalizers in Congress. And I will give it to them na minsan sabi nga namin maganda yung research nila, maganda yung paglatag nila ng mga concerns. And the leadership naman, kami naman na mga miyembro, hindi namin yan pwedeng sabihin na hindi namin sila narinig. But the actions of the leadership is not just a product of because nabulungan. Napaka convenient naman na consideration yon. The statements of Makabayan are of a public record. It's part of the proceedings of Congress. I don't think nabulungan yon. Then eventually, Congress as a whole decided to do what was best for the country. Diba? Ang obligasyon naman natin ultimately is for the people. At katulad nga ng sinabi ni Kong Z, ang batayan namin always is ano talaga ang mandato ng opisina. And I don't think Congress will ever compromise the necessity of strengthening the mandate of every office, including the office of the Vice President. But since the Vice President has chosen not to explain it to herself, then we will have to go to the Constitution kung ano talaga ang trabaho ng Vice President and make sure that that role is given the resources that it requires.
Pahabol lang yung kasi lahat naman ng may tumatawag. Hindi yung sa akin lang naman, karamihan naman kasi ng mga nire-raise niya na parang problema, yung ina-atake daw siya. Karamihan naman ng mga nasabi niya, ina-attack niya yung parang siya nag-a-attack sa sarili niya. Parang self-inflicted kasi. Pero in the House of Representatives, you have been from the start kahit sa press con po. Kung may issues man, we stick with the issues. Kung may critique man, after we critique, after we look into the deeper content ng mga sinasabi o ng budget, nag-offer naman kami ng solution. So, issue-based lang po talaga. Kitang-kita naman po yun. Pangatlo, sinasabi niya na ano yun, yung sa pagka-presidente, sorry. Yung mga VP. Oo, siguro familiar sila doon, no? Nung nakarang administrasyon. Hindi naman po attacks kasi yung ginagawa namin. We're focusing on the issues. And susunod nga po, ako po, hindi po ako tatakbong presidente. Ina-announce ko na hindi po ako tatakbong presidente. Nakatutok po kami sa budget. Kaya nga po yung issues around, circling the Office of the Vice President, which is yung pinakahuli na inattendan po namin na budget hearing, yung mga tinitignan po natin doon kung paano i-improve yung Office of the Vice President in terms of budget utilization and the overall budget as well. Salamat po.
Later, ma'am, I'll call you, ha? Okay, thank you. I recognize Rosalie Cos from UNTV for her questions.
Yeah, good morning po, Kongs. Yesterday po marami kaming nasaksihan na first time. First time po na hindi lumusot yun pong budget ng isa sa pinakamataas na tanggapan sa pamahalaan. First time din na walang humarap na opisyal sa budget deliberations. Ano po yung repercussions po nito and ano po yung napagkasunduan sa House panel para hindi na ito maulit? At may effort din po ba kayo kung Jong na at lastly makipag-ugnayan sa OVP kasi kayo po yung magde-defend ng budget before the plenary?
Lahat po talaga mga first timers din po kami. Pareho tayo nagulat. Patuloy po yung pakikipag-ugnayan namin. In fact, yung aking pong Chief of Staff ay tumatawag din po sa kanilang opisina at nagsulat na rin po kami para magkaroon po ng ugnayan, coordination, nang sa ganun ay mabigyan po tayo ng enough na material para po pagdating po sa plenaryo ay meron din ho tayong mapagkukunan ng ng kasagutan sa mga posibleng mga katanungan nating mga kasamahan. Now, pagdating po dun sa sa nangyari po kahapon, actually hindi ho scripted 'yon. Talagang makikita niyo po kung paano po yung demokrasya, no, na kikita natin even in the budget hearing, meron talagang may posisyon at may posisyon na hindi nagkakatugma. Pero at the end of the day, nakita niyo naman po na ang focus talaga is the budget. At sana, although hindi pa talaga napag-uusapan officially kung ano yung magiging possible na, kasi nasa rules po yan no, kung pero ang aming pong posisyon diyan ay since tayo po ay nahalal at tayo po ay inatasan ng ating mga kababayan na magkaroon ng trabaho, no? I mean, our primary consideration is since we are all public servants, then it is incumbent upon us also to follow what the constitutional requirement says, which is in the times of budget hearing, we really we owe it to the people to really present our budget through the members of the legislature, present them, explain to them, and allow them to really exercise also their mandate to scrutinize the budget. Sa makatuwid, in short, we hope sana, dahil first time ito, at sana walang second time. Sana hindi na mauulit yon. Kasi it's not only an insult to the House of Representatives, it is also a way of dismissing what the Constitution says and what the Constitutions require of us as public servants.
Add ko lang, first time din po na ganun po ang trato sa House of the Representatives, House of the People during a budget hearing po. Kaya minsan mapapaisip ka, masakit ba talaga o masarap ang first time? So ngayon lang po kasi tayo natrato ng ganito sa House of Representatives. Kaya nga po, House of the People, and all of the people are there as district representatives. At karapatan po namin na tanungin po at maalaman ng tao kung saan po nagagamit yung mga pondo na to. Oo nga. Di ba marginalized sector? So, kayo po yung representative ng mga sector.
Go ahead.
Sa lahat po ng nasa panel, now that the Vice President is neither an ally or a member of the cabinet of the PBBM administration, considering po in the past administrations, the Office of the Vice President always received the smaller budget, since hindi po siya hindi siya kaalyado ng sitting president, will we expect that in the coming years pa po?
Ako naman, as we always say, we might have differences with the person involved, but the position of the Vice President is an office that we need to respect. Diba? We can only hope that the same respect that we give her or her office is reciprocated. Unfortunately, with her absence, it tells us otherwise. But nonetheless, Congress can always choose to be the better person. We will give what is necessary for the Office of the Vice President to, I know, this is my position. I would support any moves to ensure that the Office of the Vice President is given the funds needed to carry out its constitutional mandate. Anything that is more than that, I will leave to the wisdom of my colleagues.
Pareha ni Kong Jude, no? Dapat po yung may iwan or ibibigay na budget sa Office of the Vice President is still responsive sa mandato po niya. Again, na-mention nila yung burn rate, yung utilization rate. Halimbawa, yung isang part ng budget niya, yung pagbibigay niya ng, pagbibigay niya ng assistance, yung utilization or yung burn rate noon, 3% lang. Bakit mo pa bibigyan ng malaking budget yung part ng yung assistance na yon? Ibig sabihin, hindi niya nagagamit. So, bakit mo pa bibigyan ng budget? So, baka pwedeng sa ibang bagay na lang, yung kung saan niya mas nagagamit. So, again, it must be responsive to the needs and the mandate of the Office of the Vice President. Thank you.
In addition to that po, I think it really doesn't matter kung ally or not, and this applies to all agencies. Our mandate here is to exercise the power of the purse, and we will, as Kong Jude said, we'll do all our efforts to make sure that whatever the department, whatever the office, they have what they need to carry their constitutional mandate. Yun lang po.
Ako naman on the part kasi parang mukhang individual position ito, 'di ba? Kasi wala pa naman talagang collective na pag-uusapan. Ang position ko naman, as long as there's no policy that says the Office of the Vice President, and I'm talking about the office, ha? I'm not talking about the one occupying it. Pag wala pong polisiya na clear na policy na nagsaset ng parameters how this office may engage itself with social services. Ako naman kung maganda yung pagpapatupad at nagagamit ng maayos yung pondo binibigyan, I have no problem with that, no. Ang akin lang is kailangan talaga, go back to the very basic, no, the reason why we're having this annually, it's not only being practiced by the House of Representatives simply because of a resolution or a law or rules that we have adopted here in the House. It's really the Constitution that requires us to hold this budget cycle each year and scrutinize the budget para makita po natin na if ever in the coming years the Office of the Vice President, halimbawa yung institution mismo, gusto nila mag-engage further into supplementing or complementing other programs that may even widen the effort of the government to reach out to the people, why not? But it also has to be first presented before the Congress, prove that it has been effectively used, and number two, and finally number three, it is also based on data that the objective of those services are really backed up by a data, no, para alam po. Parang very simple lang po sa akin. Again, I'll also like to borrow the words of Kong Jude. Sa ngayon, let's see whether kung ano yung sinabi ng Constitution na mandate po ng Office of the Vice President. But personally, I would say that there's no policy naman that precludes the office in itself from engaging in other services apart, no, or beyond what is being said in the Constitution.
Thank you. Big Simintak from Net25 is recognized, followed by Marisol Abdurrahman from GMA7. Big.
Lahat naman posible, no? Lahat naman po posible sa mga panahon na ngayon. Ang pinaka-importante, the basic po na kailangan intindihin ay paano yung Office of the Vice President, kung ano yung nararapat na ibigay sa kanya para according sa kanyang mandato. Basic yon. Ibibigay po talaga yan. Halimbawa, yung salaries ng kanyang mga empleyado, kailangan talagang bigyan mo yan. Diba? Kung ano po yung kailangan ng kanyang opisina para tumakbo. Of course, kailangan mo yung sinasabi po nating MOOEs. Kung ano man yung asset, halimbawa, pag-aari ng opisina na kailangan i-maintain, talagang ibibigay mo yon. As to the other programs na pinopropose po, kaya nga po importante talaga na dumalo ang isang head ng agency para siya po yung mag-explain sa Kongreso. Dahil unang-una, hindi po na-involve ang membro ng House of Representatives sa pagdedetermina nitong mga priorities na to. Sila po yung nag-determine ng priorities na to. And definitely, since hindi po alam at hindi po involved ang ang House of Representatives sa pag-prepare itong budget na to, naturally kayo pong tatanong at sila po ang mag-i-explain sa atin. Now, again, I'd like to borrow the words of our good friend here, a former seminarian, my good friend Congressman Jude Asidre. Ang maganda po sa House of Representatives, it's a deliberative body. Hindi po yan dinidesisyonan ng isang tao. So kung ano po yung wisdom na nakakarami, ay yun po yung makikita nating resulta, kung ano man yung magiging resulta pagdating po sa budget. Hindi lang ho sa opisina ng Vice President, opisina po ng ibang ahensya. Pangalawa, kung ano po yung ma-approve dito sa House of Representatives, aakyat naman po yan talaga sa bicameral conference. So anything can happen. Anything is possible.
Kung siya, follow-up lang po, kasi mismo nang galing sa bibig ni Vice President na ipinaubaya ko na sa desisyon ng Kongreso yung budget ng Vice President. Kayo po ang magdedepensa sa plenary. Kung hindi siya tatalo, kasi sabi nyo, kailangan silang magpaliwanag dahil silang nakakaalam.
Yun po yung sa pre-budget.
Paano nyo itidepensa sa plenary yung budget ng Vice President? Kung darating yung ganong yugto.
Na alin na hindi siya pupunta. Well, tayo naman is kung ano whatever documents that we have in our possession, we will use that. I mean, I cannot extend beyond what is my duty kasi hindi naman ho ako ang spokesperson ng opisina ng Vice President. So I cannot infuse my own opinion and my personal stand on matters relating to her budget. What I can give as a way of response to those members who may have some questions about the budget is I will base my answers on the documents that I have in my possession.
If I may add, saglit lang. Just to clarify, for the people to understand what the Vice President is asking for, she is asking for standalone social services funds. Basically, hindi ho katulad siguro sa amin, sa Kongreso, at sa iba pang mga kahit local government, we all defer to the funds that are already in the frontline departments. Hindi ho kami gumagawa ng sarili naming mga programa at hindi po yun standalone funds. What the Vice President is asking are standalone programs which she will have exclusive control. Hindi ho katulad sa congressman, kami ho, wala ho kaming pondo, meron lang ho kaming dun sa test, sa tupad, papadala namin dun, sa DSWD. They own the funds. They manage the funds. This time, the Office of the Vice President is asking for their own exclusive funds. Kaya, hindi ho simpleng bagay ang hinihingi ng Office of the Vice President. Hindi ho simpleng pondo katulad nung meron po yung ibang mga ahensya. Kasi po, ang labas po nito, magkakaroon ho talaga ng duplication with existing standalone programs. At sana po malinaw po sa taong bayan natin, hindi po na pinagbabawalan natin o inaagaw natin sa Vice Presidente ang resources necessary. Kasi parang meron sinasabing mawawalan ang taong bayan, yung mapasaan pupunta yung nangangailangan. Nandyan naman ho talaga yung mga programa ng ating administrasyon, ng ating mga line agencies.
Thank you. Let us excuse Kong Zia, who will be attending a meeting. Marisol Abdurrahman, ma'am, please proceed with your questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Kenneth Basila from Business World, you're recognized.
Potential de-alignment po. Okay, ulitin ko po ba? Okay. What are our considerations to ensure that allocative efficiency is maintained throughout the budget deliberations despite tight fiscal space po? What areas of the budget do we see potential realignment?
we've heard the President loud and clear during the SONA, no? Can we keep the budget as it is? So that's the starting point. We're trying to understand the mindset of the executive, bakit ganito yung allocation, bakit ganitong amounts, and based on the efficiency of the utilization of the previous years, and also the overall socio-economic requirements of the country, looking forward to the economic goals that we're looking at. Yun talaga ang magiging parameters namin. But we are heeding the call of the President to make sure na as much as possible, we will keep the suggested, the proposed budget as prepared by the administration. But nonetheless, of course, we will not be remiss in our duty if we do not look at what are the needs of the people, the economic targets that we have, and also the utilization capacity of the agencies based on the reports that they have made during the budget hearings.
Okay po, a second question lang. Lawmakers during the budget deliberations expressed willingness po kasi to increase the budgets of certain agencies. How would the House ensure that such efforts won't risk yung government's efforts when it comes to employing fiscal discipline and consolidation po?
I wish nandito si Vice Chair Jill Bongalon, no? He's the one who's more adept with this, but I will have this to say, no? We have every confidence that the economic team, especially the economic team, because we were talking about fiscal discipline, has instituted the right safeguards and will make sure that there is clear oversight over the appropriations and the utilization of the budget that we will be able to approve. It's very good that it's a good situation that we have open communication with the executive. The leadership has, we are both on the same page with the administration. So we are able to anticipate the needs. We are able to go beyond the present situation, kung saan talaga papunta to, looking at what's going to be the goals next year, the year after next. Ang maganda lang dito is, nakikita naman namin ang efforts, especially nung economic team, to ensure that there is responsive utilization of the budgets that will be approved.
Okay. And how could the budget addressing growing concerns over inflation and the rising costs of living po? And ano po yung mga policy interventions that we have in mind so that we could spur inclusive economic growth nga po amid external headwinds po?
Well, if you notice now, we have a people-centered budget right now. We're looking at really strengthening social services, and that's really, if you put it all together, that would be a form of social investment in the people. Education will continue to be one of the top priorities, even the biggest share in the budget. That would be very important. We also have our interventions in healthcare. So kung nakikita mo, lahat papunta sa towards making sure that the people are served better, especially with more resources being allocated to key agencies who look after social welfare and social services. Ano yung first part ng tanong mo?
Ayun po, how could the budget address nga yung inflation and the concerns over the rising costs of living?
Again, we're taking the cue from the President. Sabi niya, hindi kahit gaano kaganda yung mga statistics natin, no, inflation will remain to be one of the key factors. So, hindi naman siguro makokorek ng budget lang ang inflation. But at least, with a people-centered budget, a budget that looks after the needs and the requirements of the people to a better life, we are able to somewhat caution the effects, mitigate the effects of inflation. Inflation will have to be addressed by a wide range of interventions, including economic reforms, regulation, of course, is going to be important. And nakita niyo naman ang Kongreso binubusisi talaga natin mula sa anti-agriculture smuggling, all the safeguards that are in place, para will make sure that even infrastructure, so that we can bring the cost of products and services much lower.
And okay.
Dagdagan ko lang, sir. Okay ka pa, Kong Jun, para tayo nag-exam. Hindi, seriously, makikita naman natin yun sa SONA, no? nandun po yung mga LEDAC priority measures. Doon po umiikot talaga yan kung paano huhulmain ng buo yung budget para mas maintindihan po ng tao. Kasi yung LEDAC priority measures, hindi lang naman po yan batas na ipapasa. Centered po yan sa mga nakikita po natin na problema po ng ating bansa, which is, kung titignan niyo po yung mga programa ng national government, talagang centered tayo sa grassroots, sabi nga ni Kong Jude, yung lalo sa social services, no, binababa po. So basically, it sends the message na kailangan sagutin yung mga problema na ito, yung mga tanong na ito. Yun nga po, yung nag-rise na pagtaas po ng ating mga gastusin, mga basic commodities, basic needs. Yung sabi nga po ni Kong Jude, hindi po yun ang sagot, hindi po yun ang main na sagot, yung budget po. Pero nakakatulong nga po siya at para siyang meron kaming guide dahil dyan sa mga LEDAC priorities na yan kung saan po mas dapat ilaan yung pondo na kailangan.
Last question na po. Okay. So, bilang mainit na issue nga yung remittance ng PhilHealth ng 89.9 billion sa National Treasury po, ano po yung position natin on yung sa provision nga po na ito sa 2024 GAA allowing GOCCs to remit money back to the national government? And should the provision still be included for next year's budget?
As far as my understanding po, it's purely limited to the subsidies extended to the PhilHealth. We are definitely not touching any of the premiums. And for the other GOCCs that have that provision. So as far as we're concerned po, it's all about the subsidy granted by the national government, and seeing as when they are unable to utilize, that's when there's that drawback provision po, no? So that's the one thing that I think is common amongst all of it, and I think it will still be retained. But of course, I would be the absolute worst person to answer for that, minority po. But I think that's the general consensus po of Congress.
But I think it's a very effective way of instituting fiscal discipline, diba? Where if we continue to let all these subsidies left unchecked, no, we will end up only, I'm not saying naman, pero this is the likely scenario. We're only going to keep on funding inefficiency, diba? Kung hindi rin naman nila magastos ng maayos, and it's occupying a big chunk of it's keeping a big chunk of the national budget. I think I trust our economic managers that they have a better appreciation of what needs to be done in that respect.
And on our part, syempre, kung may legislative support na kailangan, kung ano man ang recommendation ng mga economic managers natin, then we will have to again study. But if it's for the improvement of the country and bettering the lives of the people, then the House of Representatives will give its utmost support. Salamat.
Thank you, Kenneth. We have questions from Lines Capante of GMA Online.
Hello. Hi. Good morning. Good morning po. I just have one question kasi yung isa ko na natanong na. Sir, given what happened August 27 and yesterday, the unprecedented nature of events, is the Vice President worthy of courtesy from the House of Representatives? Why or why not for all? Thank you.
Well, the Vice President is the second highest official of the land. We may disagree with her, we may feel slighted by her personal actions, but nonetheless, we are duty-bound to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution accords her that position in our system of governance. I don't see any reason why we should. We may have disagreement. We should not. We may have disagreements with the person, but we are all elected officials of the people, and the Vice President is an elected official of the nation. So we will give her the courtesy that the office demands and the office requires. I think itong usapin ng pagbibigay ng kortesiya, hindi ito tungkol sa taong pinagbibigyan ng kortesiya lamang. Ito po ay reflection kung anong klase din ng mga tao na silang magbibigay ng kortesiya. So I think I trust that the members of Congress are honorable men and women. And we will, on our honor, afford the Vice President the respect and the courtesy that her office demands.
And still, courtesy begets courtesy. Yun lang naman po. Ako rin naman po, I would agree with one of my mentors na neophyte. Ganyan kami dito. But to be, of course, personally, on a personal level, siguro yung kaya kong ibigay na courtesy is 20% na lang. Kasi nung mga nakaraang budget hearing naman po, nagbigay naman po kami ng utmost respect and courtesy. So may 20% pa po sa akin.
As a general principle, no, if you're talking about courtesy, definitely, sama na rin natin, courtesy and respect. We will always have that for the office of the Vice President. We are advocates, definitely. We support a harmonious inter-branch relationship, and that will always be one of our pillars as we work here in the Congress. But if you're talking about courtesy in the technical sense, yung palaging sinasabing na inter-branch courtesy, which will be invoked in the hearings in relation to the budget, I think this has to be tempered by the needs and our constitutional mandates and duties. So, yun na po.
Thank you, Lenesca. Billy Vegas from Abante Politico. You are recognized.
Magandang tanghali po. Kahapon po na-raise ni Kong Rog yung 53 million na ginagastos ng OVP sa rent ng satellite offices. Ba't daw po yung tingog naman ang dami nyo ring offices kung saan-saan?
Actually, habang nagpe-present si Kong Rog, binibilang ko nga they have 12 offices and 53 million ang rental. Tingog, we have 137 offices right now. We're not paying any rental. Diba? We're working in support, together with our partners, allies, volunteers. Ito si Kong, may isa siyang Tingog Center na tinutulungan. Because kami, klaro naman sa amin sa Tingog kung anong gusto naming mangyari. Gusto namin maipalapit ang serbisyo ng gobyerno sa mga tao. Minsan naging katuwaan na lang, no, yung mga politiko, ang daling lapitan, ang hirap hanapin. Tumatawa si Paolo. Pero, joke lang naman yun, pero minsan malaman, no? So kaya pinagsisikapan natin na mailapit ang serbisyo. At ayaw naman natin one time lang. Kaya nakikipag-ugnayan tayo sa mga kaibigan natin, katulad yung ibang district congressman, yung ibang mga mayors. Minsan nga, kahit mga kasamaan, kahit nga classmate ko sa college, minsan napakiusapan ko na magbukas ng tanggapan. At wala po doon ang pondo, wala po doon wala ho kaming stand-alone funds. Ano pong ginagawa ng mga Tingog Center? Kami po ang nagpre-prepare doon sa mga beneficiaries kung ano ang kailangan nilang i-prepare na dokumento, i-connect namin sa DSWD, sa DOLE, sa DOH, or sa ospital para ho malaman nila kung paano sila mas matutulungan pa. So, malaking pagkakaiba po yung mga satellite offices ng Office of the Vice President at mga Tingog Centers. I can only hope na meron kaming 53 million na pambayad. Pero sa totoo, wala ho kaming binabayaran kahit piso para sa mga tanggapan po ng Tingog Party List.
Sorry. Sigundahan ko lang kasi yung Tingog Center po sa amin sa La Union, sa bahay po ng lolo ko. Hindi po siya dedicated na opisina. But we have a small space and we have a joint desk for Tingog and of course our district office. Ganun po kadami ang kaibigan ni Kong Jude na meron pong espasyo ang Tingog Center sa different satellite offices po. At wala po kaming binabayaran na. Wala pong renta. Wala din po. Pagkakaibigan lang po talaga sa kamustahan. Which is, siguro, yun po ang foundation ng pagiging pagtulong sa tao is meron kang isang kaibigan.
In addition lang po siguro, no? While we understand that there will be that point of comparison between the OVP and then yung Tingog, which na-answer naman ni Kong Jude. In the words of good PH Senator, no, you cannot compare apples to oranges. Let's just look at the answer of COA. Compare the office of the Vice President to the previous Vice Presidents. Wala pong ginawang satellite offices in the previous administration. So you're still comparing 53 million to 0, kahit na hindi party list po ang i-compare natin. And where is it more likely to be compared? If you look at the basis of which the satellite offices and extension offices were made, parang it's patterned after regional offices ng ating administration, of the national government. So bakit po parang may sariling bureaucracia yung Office of the Vice President? I think that's the more pressing concern, and that's where I was coming from with my interpellation. Yun lang po.
For the record, yung Office of the Vice President dati, yung kay VP Lenny, was about 300,000 po ang renta nun. VP Lenny, 300,000 sa Quezon City compared to the 54 million, yeah. Oo. Hindi satellite. Oo. Hindi one rider satellite office. Magkakaroon na din daw po soon. Yung ating mga pit stop sa Kong Rog, baka pwede meron na rin, di ba? Pwede mag-offer doon ng kape sa katubig para po sa mga nagmomotor, di ba? Wow, good idea yun, no? Thank you.
Thank you. Marisol Abdurrahman from GMA7.
Sir, pardon me for asking, pero yung Tingog, what do you represent po? Anong party list po ito, sir?
Well, ang Tingog po ay party list. Originally, nanggaling talaga kami sa Region 8, Leyte and Samar. But, you know, since naswertehan naman tayo na we have more than one representative, at nakita rin naman natin na ang sitwasyon ho ng Leyte and Samar, yung pagkawalan ng boses, o pagkawalan ng Tingog, ay hindi lang exclusive sa situation po ng region namin, but it's a common experience in many regions kung saan, sabi nga nila, less than Manila-centric but more of a regional-based, region perspective ang meron tayo. Yun po yung isinusulong ng Tingog Party List. Making sure na ang ating mga rehiyon, ang ating mga kanayunan, ay may parehong access sa mga serbisyo ng gobyerno at hindi lang ho dun sa access, but also the same level of participation when policies are being shaped, no, in the national arena. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo, malaking prioridad ng Tingog itong dalawa. Una, yung mga Tingog centers kung saan napapalapit natin ang mga serbisyo ng gobyerno sa mga tao, or at least na-channel natin ang mga tao doon sa serbisyo ng gobyerno. At pangalawa, our legislative record would show our strong participation in really shaping national policy, not just from the regular or the conventional perspective, but most especially from the perspective of the countryside.
Yeah, and granting there's no rental pay, so I just wonder why do we need to have 100 offices for the party list?
And that's because we want to be where the people are.
Pero syempre dapat priority. I'm from Samar, by the way.
Yes, in Samar we have more than in Region 8 we have more than 25 centers na po.
And Leyte how many offices?
The same all over. The reason,
But at least, sir, at least 50% of those offices are concentrated in Region 8.
as I said kanina, sir, ma'am, yung mga centers po kasi natin, they are not the end point. The end point will be the government agency concerned. Now, we tried expanding to almost every town, but in the end, nagklaklag lang dun sa end point. And for reasons of efficiency, we decided na kung nasan yung end point, like every province, wala akong region, ma'am, na every province may Tingog Center. Region 8 lang po. And volume of resources, almost 80% of whatever resources is afforded to us in terms of assistance is in Region 8. So 20-30% lang yung outside. Pero syempre, mas maraming rehiyon. We only have centers in 30 provinces, ma'am. Not everyone, not all provinces. Magagalit na si Kong Rog sa amin. Pero sa Region 8 kasi, hindi ho namin pwedeng lagyan. We tried. Putting in so many municipalities. Ang problema, nag-choke point dun sa end point. Kasi hindi naman kami ang ultimately magre-release ng assistance. Yung agency naman. Yun po yung pagkakaiba sa Office of the Vice President. Kasi yung gusto nila, sila mismo ang mag-aabot. We don't want that because that's not our role. Our role is to enable lang, to inform the people what the services that they can access. So dun sa checkpoint. So it's really a logistical concern. But nonetheless, ma'am, in every town, meron tayong tinatawag na help desk. Hindi siya office, help desk siya. Dun po nagsasubmit ng requirements para pagdating niya sa schedule niya sa endpoint, dun po sa agency mismo, ready na po yung gusto niyang assistance.
I guess po, of course, mga neophyte kami dito. What do we know about tradition? But they say po, no, what we've heard is that this is the first time that it has happened. It is the first time na walang nag-attend sa committee. And it will probably be the first time also in the plenary.
So are you honest expecting that it would really happen even at the plenary?
It might happen, definitely. But it was something to consider, at least for our point of view from the minority. That will not stop us from pursuing what we have to pursue in the budget. It will not that will not stop us from exercising our oversight, our keen scrutinizing of the budget. Kami po ay magtatanong pa rin sa Office of the Vice President. Actually, mabuti nga wala si Kong Zia ngayon. He would not ask me not to ask questions. Pero I told him outright na, as a friend, whether or not mag-appear po yung resource persons, I think you should really prepare, my friend, because we will be asking questions. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. Kasi pag sa plenary naman po, si Congressman Adjong na yung magde-defend, ready or not, whether may proper resources or not siya, whether he has the resource persons or not. We have to pursue it because otherwise, hindi po may papasa yung budget if we have to wait on attendance.
Is it too early to ask her to give her the budget?
Well, at least personally, ako, as I said earlier, I will make sure that the office is able to carry out. It's not up to me kasi. The Office of the Vice President is a position under the Constitution of the country, and it's my duty as an elected official to make sure that that office is able to perform its constitutional mandate.
Ako sa tingin ko meron namang mag-a-attend. Hindi ko lang alam kung sino yung mga darating. Kasi I doubt if they would forgo na mawalan sila ng budget o mas slash significantly yung budget nila. Kasi parang wala ka ng interest sa position. Parang ayaw mo nang maging vice president. Parang ayaw mo nang maging head ng office na sinasaklawan mo kung hindi ka magpapakita. So still, I am still optimistic na they would be there. At least may representative man lang. Which is dapat naman na ibigay nila yon, not only for themselves but also to the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Marisol. Marian Enriquez from Channel 5, you have a related budget question.
Sorry, clarify ko lang po sana, kanina pa po kasi sana yun. Tungkol po dun sa motion ni Kong Jill Bongalon before po tapusin yung hearing yesterday sa OVP, meron siyang sinabi na move to defer the termination of the OVP budget subject to conditions, either number 1, reduce the proposed budget of the OVP, and number 2, place the certain funds on hold until further discussions are held. Pwede niyo po ba i-clarify yun?
Well, I think I don't want to preempt the Committee on Appropriations. I think they're in a meeting right now, and I trust that they will be short after issuing a statement to that effect.
Thank you. Gab Lalo from Inquirer Online.
So, related na rin sa budget ng OVP. Kasi kahapon nagkaroon din, lumabas parang, if I'm not mistaken, first time na lumabas na may problema pala sa implementation ng magnegosyo taday ng OVP na parang 0.04% lang yung funds na utilize. Where do you think this could be reallocated? Kasi sinasabi nga na mukhang babawasan yung at tatanggalin yung mga services na duplicate. Where do you think this could be reallocated, sir?
Yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina, sir, na titignan talaga yung mga hindi nagagamit kasi sayang lang po yung budget eh. Now to where, syempre, I leave it up to the wisdom of the committee. Kasi hindi po ako member ng APRO. Pero I attend the budget hearings, of course. And actually, yung mga nakarang araw, doon nga po kami nagtataka kasi binabato sa House of Representatives. Hindi naman kami yung gumagastos ng budget. Office of the Vice President naman. Sila naman yung may budget. Sila yung gumagastos nun. Ewan ko ba't parang ang bato nila sa amin. Hindi naman namin budget yun. Kung may ganun lang akong budget, nako. Ang dami kong matutulungan. Sobra.
Sir, ito ba yung isa sa pinakamababa sa pag-observe niyo dun sa mga budget hearings? Parang 600,000 pesos out of 150 million pesos. Parang ito ba yung pinakamababa for across agencies?
I think we have to consider that it's under a bigger line item. So it's really hard to tell. But if you're going to narrow it down to that very specific program, it's a very low number. But we have to take into consideration the whole rin po, no? Kasi the line item was 1.7 billion. And I think that's from there and divide yung social services. So it might not look as bad. Kasi other departments and offices, they would present their programs naka-line item talaga. So hindi siya lump na naitatago. So that might be why this is the first time that we noticed this. It's a good thing na bring up ng COA na at least for that specific program, it speaks volumes rin. Ibig sabihin, although lumped together in one line item yung budget, yung budget, the program itself seems to be unimplementable. Baka it's not feasible. So yun. And as to where it's going to be brought, I think there should be a similar program in the DTI. But again, we don't want to preempt the committee as a whole, and we'll have to see po kung saan ilalagay. But definitely, I think consensus namin, all social services programs, kung meron, if it will be realigned, sa social services pa rin po pupunta.
Sir, just another question. Do you think the House is being placed at a conundrum? Parang damned if you do, damned if you don't. Laging masisita kung ihahayaan yung budget ng OVP na magstay as it is. Masisita rin kayo for not reducing it dahil yung attitude nga na pinakita ng Vice President. Ngayon, kapag binawasan naman, masisita naman din ng mga supporters ng Vice President na parang bakit binabawasan ng sobra yung pondo. Is it a problem for the House?
Again, I'll answer from my own perspective. Sa akin po, hindi ko na siya nakikita na problema. Kasi unang-una, trabaho nga po namin yon. Pangalawa, tinitignan po namin kung ano yung pondo na nagagamit nila, hindi nagagamit, utilized, underutilized. Yung supporters po, I don't look at it that way. Kasi nga po, again, we are bound by our own districts. Pero kailangan po alam ng tao kung saan napupunta yung mga pondo na ganun. Kaya ako lang naman to, hindi po issue sa akin yun, hindi po problema sa akin yun. Kasi at the end of the day, dumaan ka nga sa pagsusuri, sa budget hearing, kung ito lang talaga ang deserve mo na budget, yun lang talagang mailalaan para sa opisina mo.
Well, kung ang tatanungin mo, kung meron man anong problema, well, we would have been helped if the Vice President chose to explain well her budget. Kasi like for ako, ang tanong ko talaga is ganito. Meron silang social services, but unlike a district or a party list, I don't know really how they were able to approximate na ganitong number of clients ang meron sila. Diba? Kasi you're a national officer. Paano mo masasabi na ito ang lalapit sa akin na mga namatayan, ito yung masasakit? I would have wanted to know the parameters. Bakit? Kasi that would have resulted on meaningful outcomes. Paano natin masasabi na yung programa may significant impact siya? Depende sa volume. Yun sana ang tanong ko sa Vice President. How were you able to arrive at those amounts? And how were you able to arrive at those targets? Kasi kung wala yung targets, wala yung amount, nanghingi lang talaga ng petty cash. Diba? Hindi programmatic. I trust that they have a programmatic way of determining the numbers, the targets, and the amounts. And that would have been the thing that I wanted to know. And in fact, that's a question that I raised during the first budget briefing. And And ngayon, hindi ko alam. So, I would have to confer with the other members at trying to understand how we will be able to do it. These things would have been resolved kung naging straightforward at naging cooperative lang ang pangalawang Pangulo.
Sorry, in addition lang po, no, kasi it was already mentioned, I think that's a general theme, yung problema namin, I don't know if I can speak for everyone else, pero yung problema for this representation, hindi talaga programmatic yung dating with the utilization of the budget, and it would explain for a lot of the underutilization. For example, dun pa lang sa cash advance ng satellite offices and extension offices, where have you seen of all the district offices, equal po na binibigyan ng petty cash? Cash advance, 2.2 million. Pero obviously, Cebu is bigger than Siquijor. Diba? I mean, we have different demographics for different regional areas. Parang hindi talaga pinag-aaralan. And interestingly though, BARM was only 200,000. Yun na yung nag-iiba. Everyone else gets 2.2 million, BARM gets 200,000. And it's one of the most underserviced regions. So, yun, I agree with what Kong Jude was saying. Very unprogrammatic yung dating to the budget. And that's what we were hoping to help fix. Precisely by having these deliberations.
Saka last na, for the appreciation of yung mga kaibigan natin, yung mga nakikinig nanonood. Kaya po nandiyan ka para ipaglaban mo yung budget mo, saka kung ano yung ginagawa mo at ano yung mga programa mo. Pero kung wala ka, ganito naman yung paraan ng budget hearing, paano mo, kaya nga budget hearing. Diyan mo i-defend, diyan mo ipaglalaban yung budget mo na itong mga programa na to ay nakalaan para po sa pagserbisyo ng opisina. Kaya pag wala ka na doon, parang yun nga talaga, finorgo mo na na parang wala ka nang pakialam sa budget mo, saka yung proposed budget mo. Ganun ko talaga siya tinitignan eh. Kasi yan yung taon po na ganado ka kasi ipipresenta mo yung mga gusto mong gawin, yung mga programa mo para sa susunod na taon.
Thank you. Sir, last two questions na lang no, from Ed Galvez of FEBC and Terence Grana from AAP Radio. Please kindly refrain from asking questions that were already asked by. Thank you. Go ahead, Ed.
Sir, doon sa opinion lang na sabi ni BP Sara na si Speaker Martin at si Chairman Ko ang nagko-control ng budget, ng national budget. Ito po ba, sa palagay nyo, ito po ba ay taktika? Dahil nabigo siyang idepensa yung 125 confidential fund.
Nung bata pa ako, minsan nahuli akong kumakain ng wala sa oras. At sinisi ko, niluto ng maaga, nilagay sa mesa, hindi ko mapigilan ang sarili ko. Diba? It's very easy to point fingers. The issue here is not whether the budget is being controlled by so many people. The budget is being prepared by the executive, deliberated by the legislative. It's a matter of public record, nandyan siya lahat. Now, utilization. Sinasabi niyang kontrolado ng legislative utilization. Bakit ilang porsyento ba ang sa school building lang na-implement? 3% lang. Ang hina naman ng mga nagko-control nun. Pero hindi naman siguro yun ang issue eh. Ang issue talaga dito, accountability. Kung masagot niya sana yon, and obviously with her statements and her interview na release, part 3, hindi ko nga alam bakit hindi na sinabay-sabay. So baka bukas may part 4 at sa susunod part 5, talagang dinideflect po niya. Klaro po yun, di ba? Hindi naman yun yung pinag-uusapan niya yun. At she could have made better use of the time by explaining why, saying that in Congress, in front of us congressmen, and not before a television camera. Di ba? Sana dito niya sinabi yun na kinokontrol. Kasi we would have asked, na ma'am, pag kinokontrol ng dalawang tao, bakit 3% lang ang utilization ng school building projects natin?
Just a short addition lang po. No? I mean, it's precisely why it's called the executive. Sila pa yung nag-i-implement. We're just here to exercise the power of the purse. You know, we're here to lay out the budget. Once it's submitted to the executive, sila na po mag-implement. So I don't know why there is now that, and actually to answer the question, parang paglilihis nga po. Kasi nga po, that's precisely within your area of jurisdiction. Your authority is to implement. Tapos sinasabi mo po, it is controlled and implemented not only by another branch, but by only 2 people of that branch. Sobrang, it's far-fetched po. And personally, ako, I kind of take that as an offense. Kasi we take pride in our work here in the House. And ako, one of my proudest moments was finding intelligence funds in the MMDA. Ako po nakahanap niyan. Ako po nag-request from MMDA. I worked hours on studying their budget. Tapos sasabihin, control lang ng dalawa. And there are many more of me. There were 300 of us here, and we all do our part. I see that, our congressmen, I'm very proud of them. We do our part here in the House. And to say that it's only 2 people that controls it, hindi po.
Fake news lang po yun. Sinasabi niya. Hindi totoo yun.
Thank you. Last question, Terence Grana from AFP.
Sure.
Ayan.
Mike, I thought.
Ayan, dami mong mic.
Kasi maiiba tayo muna eh. Given their close ties to Pastor Kibuloy, how can former President Rodrigo Duterte, the caretaker of KOJC compound, Vice President Sara Duterte and Senator Bato de la Rosa, who both visited the KOJC compound, and the senator even investigated the police operations, escaped potential criminal liability for harboring a fugitive and obstructing justice. Shouldn't their actions or inaction in protecting Kibuloy be investigated for violating the law and neglecting their constitutional duties?
I guess I'll be answering it po not as a congressman but as a lawyer. It's not within the purview of the functions of the Congress, and I think the DOJ will be well on it. But the way that we see it, kung talagang totoo po yung mga paratang na may alam po sila and then they intentionally hid them, there will be criminal liabilities for that. There you have obstruction of justice as a special penal law. You also have the special penal law on if the principal crime alleged against Pastor Kibuloy is human trafficking po, no? The human trafficking, if I'm not mistaken, has a specific provision also for those who harbor and aid and abet in the escape of yung principal. So by then, there's also criminal liability. And of course, we have the revised penal code in which, as a general principle, in any principal crime, nagiging accessory to the crime po for anyone who is harboring, aiding, abetting the escape of the fugitive. So, kung ang tanong po is it possible na merong criminal liability? Talagang possible po under our current laws. But whether or not they are liable, we leave it to the DOJ to properly see kung may probable cause and the proper cases will be filed. Yun na po.
Thank you.
Yung sa akin po,
sorry.
Yung sa akin po doon kasi it was under a public hearing. Nag-conduct po sila ng public hearing doon, di ba? Kaya ang immediate po na tanong ko, meron allowed, I don't know how the religion works, pero may adopted members po ba ang KOJC? So, are they representing or are they adopted members or are they defending or are they just conducting the public hearing as it is? So, again, na-explain naman ni Rog kasi yung legal side niya. So, ako din po, yun yung mga tanong na tinatanong ko na rin po sa sarili ko during those times, sir. Thank you.
Ako, honestly, gusto ko lang magpasalamat sa pulisya for doing the hard work, to General Torre, I really commend them because I know how probably hostile that environment was, but there was no letting down and the rule of law. Madaling sabihin na issue to tungkol kay Pastor Kibuloy. Pero ako bilang, isa sa pinakamalakas aming advocacy sa Tingog Party List is child welfare and human trafficking. Sabi talaga namin, we should not forget that this issue is not about the perpetrator. It's about the victim. It's about those people who were trafficked, those minors who were sent abroad na pinag-asawa, yung mga biktima ng mga krimen na nangyari doon. Kung si Apollo Kibuloy man ang may sala dyan, nasa korte na po yun ngayon. At natutuwa po tayo na finally justice can, prevail.
Thank you. Before we conclude our press conference, if you have parting words, kindly deliver it now, sir.
Siguro para individual ba o individual And as a young gun, wag po nating member kami ng Young Guns, wag po nating kakalimutan every Thursday 5:15 to 6 p.m. sa PTV4 Young Guns on the Move. Bakit kayo tumatawa? Ang ganda-ganda ng show. Tutukan po natin kasi dito po namin showcase ang trabaho at ganda ng bagong Pilipinas. Salamat.
Ganda ng show pero wala ka pa sa episode, bro. Thank you very much to our media friends. I hope we were able to take this opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity for us to help clarify po. No? Na-miss namin kayo. Sobrang tagal na natin but we'll see you again Quadcom siguro. So thank you. Salamat po.
As sinabi ko kanina, nagpapasalamat po kami sa mga kaibigan natin sa media for constantly reminding us. Hindi lang naman ang Office of the Vice President ang may accountability. Kami din po. May accountability na kailangan panindigan, may accountability na kailangan tuparin. At sa tulong po ng media, nagagawa po namin ito for us to be reminded what our work is and where our accountability lies. Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataon makapanglingkod sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Chairman Judas Sidre of Tingog Party List, Chairman Sia Jong of Lanao del Sur, Assistant Majority Leader Paulo Ortega of La Union, and Representative Ross Gutierrez of One Rider Party List. Sa inyong lahat, maraming salamat po. Ako nga pala, we're trying to raise